Bring everybody in. So let me double check my volumes here. It looks like at least my mics are working. Everything looks to be just fine here. Just double checking on stuff. It looks like we're going. So welcome to the unfiltered call-in show where we talk about Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship, all those other things. I'm not sure if you heard the intro. I know I didn't hear it on my side, so I'll double check and try to make sure things are operationally together. But if you don't know me, my name is Devon Morris. I'm going to be the person here talking to you. It's been like 3 weeks since I've seen you. I like miss you to some degree. Like seriously, I miss you. And I miss you because I just haven't seen you, I haven't heard from you. I actually miss the community in general. So this is amazing to see you all here. So welcome. Tonight's topic is going to be about, really 17 agile practices that are basic practices that you're going to see across a lot of different things, and they're not specific to one or two, but they actually come from different things. But almost in most of these implementations of Agile, Scrum, hybridizations that you may find, you will see some of these practices classically, and I probably have more than seven, but we'll talk about it moving forward. So, how's everybody doing? Do me a favor and say hi in the chat. Just say hi in the chat so then at least I know you're here. I know we're represented. If you're over on LinkedIn, say hi over there on LinkedIn so I can see that you're over there. So just drop a quick little hi in the actual thing, and then we'll just get ourselves really going. Realistically, in terms of me, last week just getting back from the vacation and doing what we need to do in terms of life. But one thing that is true, I'm back here, right? Last week had some client stuff. This week got some client stuff. Last week actually had some training. That was good. Next week is gonna have some training, CSPO. So just doing the things that need to be done. That's really fundamentally it, right? So just here, just being good, man. Hopefully you all are good. I'm actually pretty good here. I see a few people saying hi, on LinkedIn and in the chat area. So, at least on YouTube. So those were both things are really, really amazing. Yeah, man, I had a good time. I recharged myself. Everything else where I'm at right now, it's a little bit hot, but that's okay. I'm good to go. We just gonna have a good time. I'm gonna have me a little something to drink. I don't drink any alcohol, but you understand where I'm coming from, because I am a little thirsty. But that being said, let's kind of get ourselves toward that topic, right? Seven agile practices that I think are those basic common agile practices that you're going to see. And we'll talk a little bit about these things. So, and then we are on the same page. But I think that when it comes to life in general, you should probably see probably the vast majority of these practices, regardless of what your agile combination is. It's not going to make a difference. You're classically going to see a lot of these things, and if you don't see some of these things, you're probably missing some of that basic stuff that you just kind of need to do. So just know that it's coming, know that we got a good thing going here. So hey, Rajiv, how you doing? Alex, how's it going? There's Rajiv there. Just saying hi to folks real quick, and then we'll jump ourselves into it. So here's the deal. There are, around this agile world, there have been many practices that have kind of popped up over the years, kind of starting off with Spiral long before you get to the Agile Manifesto. There was a tendency for people to do things different than a document driven heavy process, right? And in doing things different than a document driven heavy process, these different little frameworks popped up probably on different parts of the planet. And we have over the years, in many cases, borrowed from these different little practices that exist. Probably one of the most popular ones that people talk about all the time is going to be Scrum, right? But even Scrum has things in common with other things, and then there's some things that Scrum just doesn't deal with or talk about at all. I said there's going to be 7 of them total, um, and I'm going to start off with Scrum stuff first, right? Because I think there's a few things from Scrum that are important, but you probably could have seen other places if you was around before Scrum was even around, right? One of those things that I'm going to point out is there's something about the Scrum team. Okay, so that first thing I'm going to mention to you is the Scrum team. And let me back that up because I really want you all to understand. If you go back to the article, the new product development game, I think it's from 1986, Taguchi and Nonaka, they talked about how these product development teams were delivering very different than what they would see in many other places. What they said it resembled was a rugby team. And no matter what role people play on that team, they do whatever it took for the team to be successful. Successful. So regardless of what my role is, I'm going to do whatever's necessary to make sure we're successful as a group. So that Scrum team, that essence of that Scrum team coming from rugby, that no matter what we do, the team needs to be successful, is probably the biggest elements that you will see associated with Scrum, right? Does teams really get that right like they're supposed to? They don't, right? We always have struggles with people working as individuals versus working as a team. A perfect example of that is when I'm finished with my work, do I help out other people of the team? Or do I go ahead and grab something else from the product backlog for me to work on by myself, right? And that could be driven by many behaviors, but it's classically something that you want to see. You want to see your team really functioning as a Scrum team was designed to function. And if you go back and read that little article, if you don't know the article I'm talking about, the new product development game, it's one of those oldies but goodies for you to read to get an idea of where some of this stuff come from, because the concept was kind of borrowed from there and move forward. So that Scrum team is one of those elements that you'll see kind of trying to be created. Now, another element that you'll see common amongst teams, and I'm not going to say it's a Scrum thing because I think its foundations come way before Scrum. I'm going to say the daily meeting, the daily stand up, the daily Scrum. Now, if you go to extreme programming, you go to, any group of people that has a team that gets working together on a regular basis, they'll have a quick 15-minute sync up, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, whatever it is. Even when I was in high school at the restaurant, we would sync up as a shift would change over to make sure that everybody's on the same page, right? And so those are things that I'm used to seeing, that daily synchronization of the workers, right? In Scrum, we call it a daily Scrum. It's a daily meeting. I believe it exists in extreme programming. So it exists all over the place. But its origins is not just Scrum. It's around many places where people have to collaborate. And so one of the most common things that I say, if you're going to do Kanban, or you're going to do something that doesn't have a daily sync up, make sure you have an official daily sync up to make sure that we're all on the same page. So that daily meeting, that daily stand up, that daily huddle, that daily Scrum, the synchronization of the people that are doing the work is probably one element that I classically see in Scrum, but just as well as I do, that thing turns into status meetings, traditional status meetings, where it's about satisfying people that aren't doing the work, which means your team really doesn't get an opportunity to synchronize. So it's extremely important that you make sure that that daily synchronization amongst the workers is actually happening. And I think it just really got truly popularized again with Scrum, with extreme programming, with other things like that. So I don't think it's a Scrum thing. I really don't. But I think the popularity has Scrum has reignited it to some degree. And so that daily meeting is extremely important in terms of how we move forward with everything that we move forward with, right? You'll see the elements of it in Scrum, but you see it many other places. So I could never say it originates in Scrum, right? Another common basic practice that you'll see amongst teams, and this is number three, is going to be time boxes, right? I want to say the concept of a sprint, but I know for some teams a sprint doesn't work very well, right? But the concept of time boxing is absolutely critical to everything that we do moving forward. Whether you are considering a spike is just a time box research task. You can't estimate that stuff, so what do you want to do? You want to time box it. Whether you have sprints that are a calendar month or less, or you say to yourself, I'm in a planning meeting and we're only going to take 2 hours to do this. That concept of time boxing does some magical things, and those magical things you really need to be aware of. And one of the most important things to me is that when you have a time box, especially not a big gigantic time box, you don't want a big thing, right? When you have these small time boxes, people see the end date. And there's something about people seeing when it's going to be over that gets them kind of moving in a direction. So you want to make sure that you are time boxing. And time boxing is just one of those key elements that is going to be extremely important, right? Um, since I started bringing up extreme programming, the foundations of extreme programming you'll find in any version of DevOps that you want to look at, right? And so if you're doing software of any kind, one of the most popular, and I named this as number four, is a DevOps culture. I'm just going to call it a DevOps culture. There's many other things associated with that, but I'm just going to say a DevOps culture in general. And the essence of it, the foundation of it, comes out of extreme programming. Concepts like test driven development, concepts like continuous integration, continuous delivery. When you start thinking about how we've improved over the years with branching and merge controls when it comes to software development, all these things come from that wanting to combine software more often, and it's gotten better and better and better and better over the years. There was times when it was only open source software that was really doing the type of branching and merging that we're talking about here. And now you can find it in almost every, application management tool, right? In general, you'll see this occurring. So when I think about extreme programming and kind of what is given to the game, I mean, it's given a lot because you can't really get too much faster without changing how you build things, right? Because Scrum doesn't give you any of that how stuff. A lot of people like to mix the how stuff into Scrum, but Scrum doesn't give you any of that. A lot of people like to mix things into Scrum, like project management, and really say it's more decentralized project, but Scrum doesn't talk about project management. So Scrum doesn't give you any of the how at all, right? And so it doesn't give you a how on how to build things. And when it comes to software development, there's no way to get around the things that extreme programming has given to our practice here, right? Because when it comes to DevOps is a whole movement and culture right now. It really, really is. And if you're doing software development and you have no clue about DevOps, if you have no clue about the foundational elements that Ken Beck came up with extreme programming back in the 1990s, even before Scrum was around, a lot of people would say that, elements of extreme programming are in Scrum. Absolutely, I can see that because they almost marry to each other when you're doing them together because they kind of flow in a way where they can just go hand in hand and work together so well together. And so it's one of those things when it comes to DevOps, when it comes to, the hows of getting software done, branching, merge control, all those concepts, right? You go back foundationally, you'll see a lot of that stuff within extreme programming. So that would be another one of those things. And I think that is one, two, three, four. I'll just say that's four, right? DevOps, because combining those is really important. Another thing that you should see in almost any implementation of Agile is prioritization. Now, I'm going to say feature prioritization, but prioritization in general. I always say to people, when was the last time, and you all know in this room, everybody that's here, when was the last time you completed all the scope on an effort that people wanted you to do, right? When was the last time that actually happened to you, right? Put it in the chat. Last time it happened, right? Throw it in the comments for me, right? Because if in the past year you was able to get all the requirements done that started out, I applaud you. But I guarantee you that of the people that are listening and participating right now, in the past year, you haven't had one effort where you delivered all the scope, right? And what I have to tell people in general, if you're not going to, if you're literally not going to deliver the scope, all the scope, and this has always been your pattern of not delivering all the scope, assuming that scope is requirements, assuming that features are requirements, right? User stories are requirements. We're prioritizing those things. We're prioritizing the what stuff, right? Yeah, you can prioritize the how stuff, but we should be prioritizing the what stuff. Whether you want to call it a feature, whether you want to call it a requirement, whether you want to call it a user story, use case, business requirement, I don't care what you want to call it. But we should be prioritizing those features, that scope, right? Because we're likely not going to get it all done. We're likely not going to get it all done. And if we're not going to get it all done, we might as well start prioritizing and negotiating on scope from the very beginning. Because when you prioritize scope, you're doing what? Negotiating. That's all you're really doing. You're doing nothing more than negotiation. So when you think about any implementation that you have of Agile, Scrum, whatever your hybridization is, I don't care. You should be doing some prioritization. If you're not prioritizing, you're running into a huge problem. And I'm going to say you're running into a big risk, because normally people lock some of the constraints like time, and a lot of times resources is locked. And even if you add more resources, you tend to be more late than what you expected yourself to be. So there's always a communication problem when you got a bunch of people. So just be real careful about that. But you should be prioritizing. You should be prioritizing literally around the features that exist, right? Let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that was number 5, right? Number 6. Kanban. Okay? I'm not talking about Kanban from a Kanban Agile perspective. I'm talking about Kanban from a lean manufacturing perspective, right? Because a Kanban is a signaling system that was created at Toyota back in the 1940s. And that visualization, that signaling system, we tend to call it a Kanban board, but that is just a visualization. That is just a signaling system. However you create your signaling system, I'm just in this instance calling it a Kanban board, right? Call it a Scrum board, call it something else, but you should have a way to signal and visualize the work that is being done, so and then people can better collaborate, so people can understand where things are sitting at, in the process, without bothering too many people. Finding ways to visualize that normally give people that are doing the work an opportunity to better collaborate and get the work done. So you do want to find a way to visualize that work. And this can be really hard when you are working inside of tools, especially electronic tools, right? Because a lot of times the visibility that we want the tools to give us, we don't go and check the tools like we're supposed to. And so then it becomes this thing where the Scrum Master is making people update stuff, and that's not the way it should be. That visualization is for the team, for them to be able to better collaborate, for them to be able to better get the work done. So find a way to visualize it. We love to call it a Kanban board, some kind of board in general, a Scrum board back in the day. But find a way to truly get that work visualized and for everybody to have an idea where work is at. That is really important in terms of collaboration. That's always going to be a very important thing for your teams, right? For your teams in general. That's number 6. The final thing is probably something I'm having a big problem with right now. And it's a huge problem, and that is the separation of two things. And this is number 7. Separating the what stuff from the how stuff is a huge problem that I have more often in organizations than I want to. I can go in and come to an easy agreement with a lot of people about what a requirement is, right? A usable representation of the need. That normally is easy for me to do. We can go talk about a user story from the perspective of the user, and then as soon as we get in-house, as soon as we get in the organization, as soon as we start doing real work, requirements start to look very much like tasks, like activities, like the how. And I find in a lot of organizations that their how and their what are combined, are really truly combined. You'll see some how stuff mixed in the what stuff, or you'll see this conversion of what and how, and then they'll call those things user stories, right? They'll say these are the user stories, or they'll find some different name for them. You know, the truth of the matter is, if you combine your what's with your hows, it's going to make it harder to prioritize everything, because then your product owners are only in a position where they can say, we need everything done. We need everything done, right? We need everything done, right? And you don't want to be in that position. And so one of the hardest fights that I typically have inside of organizations is separating the what's from the hows. If I walk into an organization and they got that part down, I usually don't have to have too many other theoretical battles, because that's normally a battle in theory. And what happens is that battle in theory has found a way to turn into hierarchical kingdoms inside of organizations, right? Where, you know, people are now fighting over that knowledge set, right? Or keeping it that way, when we really truly want to separate the what from the how, because all the user is concerned about is the what stuff. And realistically, 80% of requested features are rarely, never, or sometimes used. So if you want to get at the ones that are most often used, the ones that are most valuable to the user, you have to deal with the ones that the user are focused on. Those will be the what, they won't be the how. And so that number 7 is probably one of the biggest problems that I have, but it's one of those problems that you should deal with in any implementation of Agile, Scrum, Kanban, whatever you want to utilize. Doesn't make a difference. You should be dealing with that, right? So let me ask you all a question, and I'd just love for you to throw it in the comments. Which one of these things do you have the most challenge with, right? Which one do you have the most challenge with? Throw that in the comments for me, right? Because I'm curious, because it can't just be me. It cannot just be me. It cannot be, right? It cannot be. This is just the truth, right? And so if you haven't said hi, make sure you say hi. Do me a favor, make sure you say hi. I will mention them again and just throw them in the comments for me, right? I'll go backwards. Number 7, separating the what from the how. I'm telling you, if there's a problem that I classically have all the flipping time, it's battling the what and the how. And I will go in and train an entire organization on these concepts, the what and the how, the difference between the two, and we will still fight about it. They will even agree to me that I agree with you that this is the way it should be. And then we get down to doing the work. No go. It's not happening, right? That was number 7. Number 6 was it feature prioritization? Again, I just went off the top of my head. Feature prioritization, story prioritization, requirement prioritization, whatever you want to call it. I probably mixed that up with visualizing the work, Kanban boards, Scrum boards, finding ways to visualize that work. We also had DevOps culture, DevOps process, branch, merge, control, just all those concepts that come in engineering. Whole slew of them. Right, so I'm not trying to ball them up there, but again, these come from different agile places, right? That daily meeting, that daily stand-up, that daily huddle, daily scrum. Time boxing is extremely important as well. And then that other thing, the very first thing I said was that concept of that scrum team after that rugby team, that no matter what, we're gonna get to that goal as a team. We're gonna make this thing happen as a team, right? These are common practices that I see amongst pretty good implementations of Agile, right? Pretty good ones, right? But these are really basic concepts that have been pulled from a little bit of every place. And I would say probably primarily from Scrum, XP, Kanban, Agile principles. You're going to see primarily those things, right? But the idea is that you'll see probably at least 4 of those 7 in most implementations of Scrum, most hybrid implementations. And most of y'all are doing a hybrid implementation, regardless of what you say, right? You're doing a hybrid implementation. Stop pretending like you're not, because you are. It got some of this old stuff in it mixed with some of the new stuff, because ain't nobody doing perfect Scrum. You already know this. So, which ones are you having the most difficulty with is the question, right? Which one of those concepts is just raking your nerves, like literally raking your nerves? I guarantee you one of them is, right? It's probably multiple is raking your nerves, right? Because it's classically the problems that I see almost every time I walk through the door. It just is what it is. There's not much you can do about it. That being said, if you didn't say hi, make sure you say hi. We're going to move on in just a second and start opening the floor for questions that we have. But like I said, let me double check to see what people are saying here, right? Due to change in scope, let's see. I found the 80-20 rule. Let me throw these on the screen. I found the 80-20 rule. Some might question if it's 100%, as might have to work a lot harder to finish. ROI drops off in value, returned after a point in time. Absolutely, especially if you can't separate that what from the how. I don't know how you hit 80-20 if you can't separate the what from the how. I see Miss Sharon says Kanban. Ms. White says Kanban. I see separating what from the how. Come on, this is like that right there is so troublesome to me. It's always been troublesome to me. I keep running into that problem no matter what I do, right? Alex says, hey, in that why situation, absolutely. Unique got the requirements and prioritization. Absolutely. Hey, Evelyn, how you doing? When I jump on LinkedIn, I see, my different people in their different places. Don't see no comments on what I asked for, but I'm telling you right now, people, be careful of those things, because those 7 things, those 7 basic things will bite you in the butt. Let me mention them again because I think it's important. That working as a Scrum team, working as one, kind of moving forward. I just did a thumbs up. Did y'all see that? I don't know. Let me do this again. Did I really just do a thumbs up? Let's see. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I saw a thumbs up. I thought that was a LinkedIn thing, but maybe it's the other thing. Anyway, not a LinkedIn, but a Zoom thing. But that Scrum team, working as one, really important. Time boxing, super important. Daily meetings for synchronization, not for status, super important, right? Separating that what from that how, super important. Prioritizing features, super important. Visualizing, Kanban board, whatever you want to call it, super important. DevOps culture, right? Dealing with the how in some kind of way to make the how stuff kind of better, right? Regardless of what you want to call it, something like that, right? So DevOps, merge controls, things of that nature. And all of you all in this room are dealing with some type of hybrid. So just conclude hybrid and all that stuff there. So on that note, we're going to close it out on that because that's where we're at. I want to know if you have questions, right? I'm going to ask you if you like what the content that we're doing, what we're serving up here, then do me a favor. Like, subscribe, click the notification button. It's as simple as that, right? I don't know how many people that we got. Maybe we'll be getting to 1,500 sometime soon. But we'll see. We're going to try to get to 2,000, 3,000 next year. I haven't set the goals for this year. But in November, we going to be goal setting, y'all. Let me say this one more time. We going to be goal setting. Like, Patrick was around last year when we goal set it, right? We're going to be goal setting in November. So I want every single one of you all here to be thinking about what the heck am I trying to do next year? What the heck am I trying to do over the next few years? And then go from there. Now, let me offer some bad news here. For those that was thinking about the Bankable Breakthrough event, I had to cancel it. Not enough people wanted to attend. These kind of things happen. So for the people that did register this Thursday, I'm going to have a specific event for them for 4 hours where I'm going to answer all their questions and bring up a couple topics that they may want to talk about together. And I'm doing that for them for free because I'm getting everybody who registered a refund. All right, so just know that. The Bankable Breakthrough event is not going to happen. I'll do it a year or 2 years from now. I'm about to focus on getting this PhD done. So just so you all know, I'm not trying to push it to the side, but the idea is that I think a few people have some things that they want. I think everybody else just really want to be more focused on Scrum when I was trying to teach you how to make a hell of a lot of money. That's what I was really trying to teach you how to do. Make a hell of a lot of money. Anyway, but people are interested in making a lot of money. I don't know why y'all not interested in making a lot of money. Look, let me tell y'all something. My goal in life is time and freedom. That's been my goal since forever. Time and freedom. Okay? So, trying to get some time and freedom. But nobody wanted to come hang out with me to get some time and freedom. Anyway, that's okay. No big deal. I'm going to blame myself. Maybe there's something I was doing wrong. But, yeah, didn't work out. That's okay. For the folks that did come, they're getting a refund. And I'm going to give them a lot of good time. So we're going to have a good time. And for you all that did not register, no, you can't come. It's only for the few that registered, okay? So, let's see. That being said, y'all know how this works. We take a little bit of time here. We talk about a topic. And then we open the floor for questions. All right? So, as I try to get myself right here to make sure that I can hear, because right now, I don't know if I can hear you or not. I got to make sure you can hear me as well. So what I'm going to do right now, as you all decide what questions you want to get answered, please drop those questions. In the comments. Okay? Please drop those questions in the comments. I'm not going to open up the interview part yet because some people may want to join the interview. The way we kind of operate is at this last 30 minutes is all about questions and answers. So please drop your questions in the chat. If I get the sound right to where I can hear you, then I'll open up the interview gate for anybody that wants to come on live, okay? So, that being said, whether you're on LinkedIn or you're right here on YouTube, please drop your questions in the chat, okay? Otherwise, hopefully everybody else has been good to go. It's all good. Why the droopy eyes and feeling bad now? You ain't got to feel bad about nothing. Yeah, what you feeling bad about? There's nothing to feel bad about. It is all good. It's all good in the neighborhood is what I would say. Yeah, it's just all good in general. Oh, for some reason, my headset don't want to do its job, so I don't understand why my AirPods won't connect, but it's okay. They're connecting and not connecting at the same time. All right, so no sad faces here, please. We're good. All right, we're good. I'm just going to go ahead and find a different way to do this. I always bring multiple headsets because I run into problems, right? So, yeah, so right now we're going to get this paired up and we're going to see if it works out. That's okay, Sharon. We're going to do something in the future. Sharon's a little sad because she didn't register. It's okay. Like I said, I don't have no complaint about it. I just know that the people that did registered, there's certain things that they wanted, and so I will make sure that they get taken care of, right? So it's all good. Life happens. People are busy. All these kind of things. I'm good to go with that. Let me go ahead and try this one more time. Let's see. Let me deal with this. Don't want to come on for me. I love my headsets. They just kind of give me problems, but I don't have everything with me because it's all. I'm not in Texas. If I was in Texas, then it'd be a different thing. If I was in Texas, then I have about a million things I can pull out on you. So let's see one more time. All right, so that's okay, Sharon. You got this. We all busy, so it's no big deal. It's all good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. I'm gonna just start answering questions, and then again, if I get this thing to pair up, then we'll be good to go. So that being said, um, how do you manage conflict within a team during the development process? I would love to understand what type of conflict you're talking about. For me, conflict comes in many levels. I probably would try to identify the sources of conflict, and then figure out what type of resolution strategies will work best for whatever those conflicts are. Sometimes you're looking for a win-win. Sometimes there's a win-lose. Sometimes there's three parties involved where you want to get a win-win-win. But I remember. Let's just take it to a simple place. I remember one team that I had. The business analyst was upset at the developers. The developers was upset at the testers, and the testers didn't like anybody. The problem is, I don't care if you don't like people on the team, and even if you're having some kind of conflict is just a natural part of any team. The problem is, does that conflict prevent the team from getting things accomplished? That's the real question. And if it is something that's preventing the team from accomplishing things, then you're going to have to deal with that conflict. Okay? This could turn into you having to have some conversations that are uncomfortable for you to have, depending on the type of conflict it is, right? If it's, a basic communication thing, then you deal with the people accordingly, have a conversation about how we can better communicate, then go from there. But the worst conflicts I've seen have been the ones of a more personal type. Sometimes there's been things that didn't happen inside of the company. Sometimes it was things where somebody didn't like somebody because of some characteristic, like skin color, a woman, or whatever it is, right? I try to coach people who I see have a problem. But when I had those three, like the BAs versus the developers versus the testers, that got so bad that we got zero story points done. And it was because of the conflict. And I had to have one of those, you know, almost like a nuclear meeting with them where we had to all get together and we had to deal with the conflict. And then I realized that the source of the conflict was like 6 months prior to us even starting. It was like two or more projects ago, whatever. And something happened during that time frame that caused sets of them to have problems with other sets of people. And it was something that had nothing to do with whatever we were dealing with. And so we just had to get in a room and really deal with it honestly. And that really meant that I couldn't let anybody else in the room. I couldn't let management in the room. It's almost like I had to tell management that it's going to be something that we're going to deal with, and we can only talk about things that the team allows me to talk about, right? But once we came out that meeting, we ended up being a much better team. It was definitely a slow ramp up, but Evelyn, I would definitely ask you what kind of conflict. And the idea though is, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna give you all a bit of truth, right? I really despise conflict in many ways because I don't want to always deal with conflict that's going on. But the idea is that you can't really run from it. You got to deal with it almost immediately. And then it doesn't become something that grows bigger than what it is. And so just make sure you deal with that conflict immediately. The hardest conflicts for me has always been the more personal ones. We can always resolve other things, but the personal ones that really don't have no basis in what we're doing on this team right now are the ones that are usually the most difficult for me to deal with. Okay, are usually the ones that are the most difficult to deal with. Okay, so I would say that's where you go with that, Evelyn. So let me know if you have any further questions. Hopefully, I helped out with that. I'm not sure because conflict comes in such big ranges, right? So let's go ahead and talk here. I see Sharon. Where can I find more about Kanban practices? I think Alex jumped out there and said David J. Anderson's book. Yeah. There are free resources that you can start out with. Let me see. Uh, Kanban. There's some free resources out there that I think could be just as helpful. A little bit older, but just as helpful. Henrik. And I'm just grabbing something real quick. If I can find it, I'll throw it off to I'll throw it to you, and then you can go from there with it. But I know there's a guy. Let's see. Probably Nyberg. If I was you, I'll start off with a free download though. And I'll throw this in the chat for you. This right here. There's many books out there. Information Q has a few of them. And if you go there and start off with that book right there, Nyberg gives a few great things, right? And so just start off with that resource, and I think that would be helpful for you. But David J. Anderson would be another source. Nyberg would be another good source. There are Kanban certifications as well. So I can't recommend a trainer for you, but there are Kanban certifications that exist, and I think Mr. David J. Anderson offers a certification. So I would go ahead and check that out. If hopefully that'll be helpful. So start off there, and I think if you start off there, you'll be good to go. Also, Ken. Again, I haven't read this though. Ken Schwaber. Because he's a part of his own organization, Scrum.org, and I think Scrum.org actually created a Kanban book, right? Kanban. Ken Schwaber. I think, at some point he created a Kanban guide for Scrum teams. And you can use that resource. Again, I can't tell you how good or bad it is. I just know that it existed. So I think there's lots of resources out there. I think you just need to jump out there and just take a look, right? Do a little bit of investigation. I think you can find several amazing resources in terms of Kanban. So I would kind of go from there from you, and you'll be good to go. Let's see. Let me look here. So great question, Sharon. Let's see. At what point do you throw in the towel with number 7 with the if you dropped in all the facts the agency understands but is still going to ignore what you are presenting? Okay. So I know about your situation, Alex, and you know that I've been dealing with your folks since 2013, 2014. I've had a few of your folks leave and go do other things because change wasn't happening, right? And so what you have to remember for you is you are in a culture that is really extremely resistant to change, okay? And they have built mountains of processes that doesn't work very well within the system of things. Okay? Doesn't lend itself towards speed. And because you have people who can dictate to many people in the organization, and that's part of the culture, is going to be a longer change curve. Okay? It's just going to be. And what you have to say to yourself is, am I okay with an organization that is going to move at a snail's pace when it comes to the implementation of this? Alex, what I will say to you is, your organization is different today, way different today than it was in 2013, 2014. Really is very different, trust me. Now, I'll say this to you because I know, based on my experience with USA, when Scrum got kicked out the building in 2008, and we retried it when I came back. They wanted to try it again, and we tried it in 2011. I can honestly say to you that 2008 and 2009, the way that Scrum slash Agile slash Waterfall looked in the organization, Scrum didn't feel that different than Waterfall in the organization, because of the cultural things that are there. And so that was a very slow change. And I would guarantee you that if I was to walk in their doors today, it would be different, but it wouldn't be Amazon different. It wouldn't be like companies that, I kind of always draw a line in the sand. I kind of say to myself, there are companies that are like pre-internet companies. There are companies that big internet, right? When internet got real popular. Pre-Y2K companies. Many of the pre-Y2K companies, especially if they're a couple decades prior to, like before the 1980s, almost before the 90s, was around, created culture and everything else. Those companies I have found to be the most resistant to change. That their change is going to be extremely slow because they got decades upon decades of culture in there. The companies that are post Y2K, they just seem to have a different type of being that exists inside of them, a different kind of people that exist inside of them that allow them to be able to hop on and change much faster. So you are in a pre-1980s culture. And in that pre-1980s culture, you have to remember that everybody in that culture knows how to do the right thing. But because the way that the culture is, and because dictates happen from way high up that other people got to follow, otherwise they have bigger problems, it's just going to take a little bit longer to change. And you're going to have to be okay with that. But it's not like it's not changing. It is changing. It's just at a pace that you may not be comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable with that pace, other people tend to leave. And then there are some people that will stay and work through it. I think it's the most beautiful challenge, if I'm being honest with you, right? Because if you can change that culture, you can almost write your ticket any place, right? And so for me, just understand that change is going to be extremely slow there, and that's okay. And you just got to change places and get it to work in areas or within certain processes or in certain pieces where it can work well. So, and then that can show success and encourage other places to actually change. And so you're in that, measure once, test twice kind of culture, where you're going to measure several times, test several times before you're going to for sure say, we're ready to go with something. So just know that that's just the fact for you. And my statement is, that's not to say you should quit. It is to say that with that slower change, it's a little tough to deal with, but you have to learn how to take snapshots of your culture. And if I'm you, I would just take snapshots every 6 months of where we're at. And then I would be comparing snapshots and not every day, because every day won't feel like it's changing. Those snapshots you take over time will show you small changes over time. And you want to see those small changes, so make sure you take snapshots. So I'm not going to say to give up yet. I think it's an honorable and good thing to do, but just know that they are different than they were in 2013. I was around in 2013, and they are definitely different. Okay, so just know that, and know that I'm telling you the truth on that. Because if they weren't different, I wouldn't be trying, right? And I know you heard me say that before, so I'm gonna encourage you to kind of work it out, stick it out. But if you feel like that, then holler at me offline, right? But and some of you all just gonna be in those kind of cultures, right? It just is what it is. But trust me, man. When I was there in 2013, man, we had a room full of people, right? And we had people in there who experienced like a more agile thing, right? And it's just the culture just is what it is, man. And I'm just gonna say to you, it is different. It is really different, than it was before. And it's hard for you to see, but I'm looking at it over the years. I'm not looking at it over the months. I'm looking at it over the years. And over the years, there has been change. There have been people that have left, for sure. No question about that, right? But over the years, it has changed. Trust me, it has. It's not the same way. It's definitely not the same way. Other questions? See, a lot of you all here are Bearded Eagle alumni, right? And with you being Bearded Eagle alumni, I know a lot of your situations, and the main reason why we have this show is mostly for Bearded Eagle alumni versus anything else, right? That's how the show actually started, and so if I know you, stuff like that, just shoot me a line, let's talk about it. But the idea is that for me, I decided to take my career a certain way because I'm kind of ADD, right? With me being ADD, I can't help but to be helpful, and I can't help but to be rebellious. These are two things that I know is a problem for me. I don't like people telling me no, and then I just don't like to listen to people. I just don't. I have a problem with authority, but I've always had a problem with authority, and that's not anything new. I've been that way since I was a kid. So I know certain environments don't work very well for me. I know that off the bat. Okay. So you have to determine what you can handle and what you can stand, and then just kind of go from there. If you don't do that, if you don't take care of yourself in that kind of way, then you'll be really, really unhappy. The key in this game is not to be unhappy. You do not want to be unhappy. Okay. That's everybody in this room. Everybody in this room. You do not want to be unhappy. It's not something that I want to be at all. Unhappy? Nah, I don't think so. Unhappy? No way. Not me. Mm-mm-mm. So, that being said, man, it's almost time for us to wrap up. Hopefully that helped out, Alex, right? Really, hopefully that helped out, right? A lot of times it's a little bit difficult in terms of these conversations. I can't give away information, but the idea is that you know exactly where I'm coming from, Alex. You really do. You really, really do. Let me see. Did I miss anything? Did my people say hi to me? I know Alex said hi. I know Rajiv said hi. Miss White. I just like to call her Miss White because she just got on me one time. All right, Patrick, what's up, man? How you doing? Jacqueline, you still around? How you doing? Sharon is always around. Hopefully Sharon be sticking around. See, doing big things because she can do big things, right? Let's see. I miss anybody? Evelyn, Unique. How are you all doing? Hopefully you've had an amazing week. Let's see. Sola. How you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. I'll let you all know what I'm gonna do though. One of the things that I will do, is I will be dripping information on you over time. Okay. And making sure that I give you a lot of great tips and hints and all that kind of stuff. especially some of those things that was going to be in a bankable breakthrough. So we're going to give some of that stuff to you all over time. And then we will just continue to do what we do around this show, make sure people are getting their questions answered. Hopefully this is going to turn into you making your careers better, making the time to, being happy in the work that you do every day. And then I'm going to have to make some decisions about probably doing this show only on YouTube in the future. I like LinkedIn, but I can't interact with you on LinkedIn. I can interact with you on YouTube here, but I can't on LinkedIn. So, if you're on LinkedIn, please join us. Please join us on YouTube, right, in the future. That'll be the place to join us. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to drop it in the link for you, at least in the comments for you. Join us there. It's normally in the comments. It's normally in the descriptions. So please make sure you do that. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? Hopefully everything's going good for you. Other than that, everybody, I think we're just about solid. I think we're good enough to say good evening. Next thing I'm going to be doing is I'll be sending that email. I'm about to go and work on that email and get our time frame down for those who had registered for the event. But know that I expect to start that at 2 in by 6 on this Thursday. So just know for you all who did register, 2 to 6 is the time we'll go from. I may need to end a little bit earlier than that because I can catch a flight. But hey, Shane, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing well, my brother. But for those that's registered, we're going to have fun on Thursday. We really are going to have a great time. So this was great. Next week's session, I'm going to see if this is going to work, y'all. I'm going to see if this is going to work. Next week's session, I am going to do that next week. I'm going to do this, the haunting hour next week, right? 10 Agile Scrum Nightmares release. So just kind of moving toward the holiday of Halloween. This is what we're going to do next week. So hopefully you're going to be around next week for us to actually jump into that. I may even pull out my Freddy Krueger claws. I may even pull them out. You feel me? Yeah, hey, 2K subscribers. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be a goal for next year, though, right? Because we're not gonna get to 2K by the end of this year. If we did, I'd be crazy surprised. But next year for sure, let's get there. 2K subscribers. It's gonna be fun. We're just on a journey. But just know, y'all, after Halloween, it's gonna be about goal setting. It's going to be about creating smart goals. That's what we're going to do a heavy amount of in November. And then you're preparing for next year. So just know, come ready for that because that's going to be about assignments and that's going to be about doing things. And that's going to be about you getting yourself ready for next year because you should not go into next year without any goals. I will have goals. I will start making mines probably soon. When I get back down to the big state of Texas, I'll start making my goals. And I always have kind of health goals. I have career goals, business goals. I have kind of impact goals. So I have different types of goals. So we can talk about that in the future. But I'm going to say to you, this is an amazing session. Remember next week, we're going to be talking about the haunting hour. I wish I could flick the lights. If I could flick the lights, I'll flick the lights on you. But I can't, right? So it should be a great topic next week. It's gonna be super scary for y'all people to do Scrum. It's gonna be super scary, but we're gonna have a good time though. But on that note, look, it's been a pleasure. I will see you all next week. We're gonna have a blast. We're gonna have fun. Look, it's been amazing. You all make sure that you have the most amazing week. Come here for the hunting hour after that and start thinking about your goals. Seriously, start thinking about your goals because that's what we're rocking the month of November. I will see you all next week. Have the most amazing week. I will see you all soon. Peace, everybody. I'll see you soon.